Hello everyone, welcome to Adrian Snary Unlearning, and tonight I'm joined by Mel McVee. How are you, Mel?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good, and otherwise known as Melski as well.
Yes.
As street artist and in a medium that's one of my very favourite forms of creativity, street art, or art in general, of course, but
yep.
Street art I just find fascinating. And Mel is a big influence, I'd say, on Mount Lawley's sort of push into street art and Perth on a whole as well. So thanks very much for coming along and being on the podcast, Mel. Muchly appreciated.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
It's real honour. Can you perhaps just start with telling us a bit about how you got into, I guess, the street art side of things and how that led on to the Mount Lawley, bring the microphone a bit closer, the Mount Lawley mural project as well.
Yep, that we met at.
Yes, that we met at.
Yep.
Through Rob. Hello, Rob. How you going?
Hi, Rob. I guess it all goes back about 18 years ago.
Okay.
I did an arts degree in sculpture.
Right, nice.
I didn't actually quite enjoy it. So I went through this whole period of not doing art and, just working in a job and
sure,
doing the slog, and then
doing what you thought you're supposed to be doing.
You kind of fall into it, and you don't tend to. You're not driven by anything. You're just living years as they come.
Sure.
And then I think my husband Dean Cracknell and I came to Mount Lawley, and we kind of felt like we're missing something. So we started doing a lot more community work.
Right.
With the Beaufort Street Network, which you would know a lot about.
Yes.
We both live in Mount Lawley.
Yeah.
And how
long ago was that?
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I think the Beaufort Street Network stuff has only been in the last maybe 7 years. So it started out simply like that. And I got to a point where I was like, I wanted to start doing more art.
Right.
And I'm one of those people that I've always loved street art as well. I don't know what the fascination is. I think it's because it's very visual and striking, and it can change a place so dramatically.
Yeah.
So my husband's a town planner, so he really loves regeneration and kind of bringing urban areas to life. And I guess street art is a very big part of that.
Definitely.
So this is the really long explanation.
That's okay. We've got all the time in the world, Mel. We've got all the time in the world.
So it came about that I was painting a mural, one of my first, in a laneway in Grosvenor Lane in Mount Lawley.
Yep. Just near Fresh Provisions, for those who know.
Behind.
Yep.
And I guess one of the other great things about street art is that you're out in the elements, and you are directly in contact with your critics and the people that love you. So it's wonderful in a sense that you will meet the community out there.
Sure.
And it's usually quite a positive and wonderful experience, and they'll come and chat, and they want to see what's happening, and nearly all the time they love the change, and
like a revitalisation that goes on with it.
Yeah. And it's also creative.
Yeah.
And it's also positive, I think, in a sense. So, and I think that's the thing I really enjoy about it.
Yeah.
So, while I was painting the mural, they asked, one of the residents asked if maybe I could paint all the walls in the laneway.
If you could do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like 150 metres long.
That's a long laneway, yeah.
And I was like, it's a great idea, but,
might take a while.
Yeah. So I was like, but what a great idea for a project that if we could get like all these different artists.
Sure.
So I thought, I'll ask the City of Vincent if they think it's a good idea, and they came back and they were incredibly positive about the whole thing.
Nice.
And they said maybe what you should do is just ask a few artists if they'd be keen on something like that. So I was like, if I'm going to get artists, I'm going to get artists I love.
Sure.
So I contacted Stormy Mills and Amok Islands and Fieldy and Rob, and they all said yes. we'd love to be involved. And I was like, whoa, this is actually a project.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, though, when you go to local government for a grant, you need a name or something to represent what you're trying to do.
Right,
So
sure.
that's when I was like, it's in a laneway. The Vic Park Collective had just started up, and I was like, Collective's cool.
Yeah,
I feel that now everyone's called Collective. But back in the day, there was only the Vic Park Collective, so I was like, I'll put those together.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting funding from the City of Vincent. We ended up getting a lot of sponsors from local business. Like even people like Little Creatures and Gauge Roads.
Yeah.
I think Crust and Beaufort Realty on the street. So there was a whole heap of local businesses that got behind it, and they put in money so I could give that money straight to the artists. Because it all comes down to when you're doing big walls, it can be quite costly with materials. And
sure.
Beaufort Street Festival. Thought it was a great idea, and we teamed up that we'd do it on that day. And it ended up being that we painted over 30 walls with over 30 artists in a 150 metre long laneway. And
Sure.
Yes, it's like the great thing with it is all the locals actually got to meet each other as well. So it
sort of bring everyone together as well.
Yeah, they're all hanging out in the day, like, oh, hi, I'm down the street.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen this one?
Sure.
So it was a really beautiful little project.
Yeah.
So based on that, we actually got $20,000 funding this year to do 6 more projects.
Oh, really?
City of Vincent.
Okay, right.
So
wow, that's a good effort.
Well
done.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So the Mount Lawley one was the first one of the 6 that I've done. So it's taken me 6 months to organise.
Right. So you mean the Mount Lawley one as in the one you just did?
The one we met at.
At the car park. Yep.
That's the first of the 6.
Right, okay. Brilliant.
So there's going to be 2 in North Perth, 2 in Mount Hawthorn, and possibly 1 in Northbridge.
Okay.
We're still working out the details.
Sure, yep. So all under the Town of Vincent umbrella?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Some of it's dollar for dollar co-contributions, so we have to raise funds, so we get local community groups involved, and then we build like a little event around it. And
brilliant way to do it.
Pardon?
Yeah, brilliant way to do it.
Oh yeah. I think City of Vincent's like an amazingly supportive local government in regards to doing projects like that.
Sure, yeah.
So it's been, and I mean, saying that, it's the first time that they've actually just given us the money and said, all right, we trust you, go for it.
Yeah.
So because I've showed them that I can do it
yeah.
and I've done it well, then it's building momentum now. So
they're more than happy to support it from then on, which originally for them I can imagine would have been quite a hard thing to do, because especially in Perth, like can and still sort of is regarded as being quite stuffy as far as councils go, and they're wanting to even evolve could be a word, but especially when it comes to like creativity and art, for a long time people would think of painting on a wall as being a destructive thing, and something that juvenile delinquents would get into and be without serious street artists or artists, full stop. So it's quite amazing like how over the last few years there's been that real shift, but it's taken really a big push from people like yourself, but also these councils as well, to change their thinking, I guess, and really want to provide the space to facilitate that, and also the funds as well, which is a fantastic thing for all the residents as well involved. Yeah.
Well, it's actually, in relative terms, it's quite a cheap way to change a place dynamically.
Sure,
So if you're looking at regeneration of an area, if you plant trees or gardens, there's a certain high cost to it.
Right.
But then there's ongoing costs with maintenance and watering, and if you have a wall, usually it's a relatively low cost.
Right.
Which is quite bright and can change, and is quite resistant to... It's easy to maintain, I guess.
Sure.
So if you coat it or something like that.
Yeah.
So in relative terms, it's kind of a win-win for local governments.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's sort of like the work that they would normally have to undertake, it sort of can be the responsibility, for lack of a better word, of someone else, and an organisation like the one that you've developed to take care of a certain area and do something there. And, you know, it really does promote, you know, a lot of goodwill around the community, I guess. Was there been a lot of help from the residents as well in these different parts? So, like, have they been able to come on board as well and just sort of give their, I guess, input, perhaps? Would that be a word? Or is
input as in how they want the to look?
Yeah.
So usually Laneway Collective projects are quite low budget. So as a bit of a payoff to the artists, because as I'm an artist myself, I think everyone should be paid a good wage for a hard day's work.
Sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think in the past, people tend to say, "Oh, the exposure is enough," and it happens in any sort of creative industry.
Yeah, music, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So from the onset, we were like, "No, if we get you to do work, there's a certain minimum for the day. We're very transparent in what you get paid, what you need to do for that." But as a trade-off for a lower kind of wage, because it's not a good paying wall in regards to maybe a commissioned piece,
right?
They usually have free creativity within confines of a community project.
Sure.
So you can't have nudity or you can't be offensive in any way.
Right.
So it's a really beautiful way of, if you're interested, to try something new that maybe that you don't get with commissions, because usually a commission piece is, I've got a pizza shop, so I want something with pizza, or I've got this, and so I want something like that. So, I mean, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes you just want to
do your own thing.
Just try something a little bit crazy and different and see if it will work on a wall.
Yeah, so. Definitely. And it even is so, like, if you've got like a message as well, I think the real... Like I've been to San Francisco a couple of times. I just love that place. But like the lot of the street art there, and a lot of the street art you find in a lot of parts of like South America as well, have like this real message behind it as well, which they normally wouldn't get normally. Like, and they certainly wouldn't get the exposure as well. And I think someone like Stormy Mills does it quite well. I think as well. There was that famous case where I don't know the full story, but the council come along. Was it the council and painted over it? The police, was it? Yeah. Yes. And so he went back over it again and you know, depicted something else as like a sort of outcry for, well, what's really going on here? Like, why is this happening? And
it was a bit contentious because that building was his wife's building.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So that mural was actually on her property. And it went on to, even though it was right on the border, the bricks were on this side of the property.
Oh, okay. Yeah, was it that one that they've got the cafe? They've got like a, it's on the corner of Charles Street. You know, they've got that little cafe and like a show. It's in North Perth.
No, it's near SK Games on Fitzgerald Street. Have you ever been down near the park with the memorial in it, the AIDS memorial?
No, on Fitzgerald Street.
Yeah.
I have to check it out. Oh, I've probably gone past there a fair bit. Yeah, actually,
it's got a big tennis centre.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, but
it's a cafe.
Yeah, they've got like a little. They've put a little cafe in there where you've got like I think this is the same one, but where you can like get like a little.
For a while.
Yeah, you can go there and get like there's like a window with a barista. You can just get like a takeaway coffee from the outside. They've sort of turned it into like a bit of a artistic resident type thing, but with like a bit of a cafe thing going on with it as well. Yeah.
No, I haven't been.
Yeah.
I used to cycle all the way past there because I used to work in Leederville.
Oh, okay, right.
And I've now moved to Lansdale and I don't get to see the city anymore.
Oh, no.
But I'll go for a cycle and have a look.
Yeah, check it out and grab yourself a coffee perhaps tomorrow.
Will do.
See what they can do, yeah. And so you said you've got another few projects coming up, and have you got like a goal or perhaps a theme or something you're liking to achieve with each of those, or is it just leaving it open for people's creativity to come through and see what evolves from there?
Well, I guess it comes down to a few things. Sometimes an owner, like you said, will only approve for a wall to be painted if they have something in mind. So usually we try and encourage it's a very broad theme, so it's not too specific.
Sure.
if some of the artists like working with each other and some of their kind of styles work well with each other. So if that's fine, I mean, you can do things to, because I guess when all these projects use multiple artists, so usually 5 and up.
Yep.
So it's about that communication, and people are usually really keen to work with it. That's the fun, is to spend a day painting together with other people that you may have heard about or know.
Sure. And especially those projects you see would actually work on the same piece together. There's that one in the laneway behind, down the side of the wall where Daily Planet is or was.
Oh, yeah. With Beastman.
But yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I think there was 3 of them that worked on that one.
Dake, I think, as well.
Okay. Yeah, and to create something in that manner, which they wouldn't necessarily have the option to do normally. So to have that ability to not only work side by side, but also with another artist. I know Rob and Filzy have worked together on a couple of different things, and I think are going to in the future as well. And yeah, it's like it sort of takes the creativity to another level when you can do that. So having that ability is fantastic.
Yeah, I think with Rob and Fieldy's work, because Fieldy does quite detailed figures, so she struggles when it comes to a big wall.
Sure.
Because for her to do a figure could take 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And it would only be a certain size.
Right.
Where you've got Rob, who's quite fluid and can cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So he uses spray cans and does repeating patterns.
Yeah.
So within a day, he could kind of cover like maybe 4 or 5, 6 meters quite rapidly and have an amazing effect. So you get this kind of balance between the two because they're both using black lines.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of interesting symbiotic relationship, I guess, where they get this kind of amazing effect out of it.
Sure. And I think that's something good friends of Rob. Hey Rob, how you going? I think that's something where I've seen really him with his art evolve as well, especially his street art, where he was like the Laneway project he did was quite detailed, and he even did that little video for it, which I'll put a link up for this as well, you know, stop animation. He did it for the Subiaco bottle shop as well, and Fieldy was across the road with a Frida Carlisle depiction, which is just absolutely incredible. They both did just an amazing job on that, as did all the artists, of course. But yeah, I guess they've sort of been able to sync up in a way where they really complement each other, and it looks quite effective what they do. And I think in the future you're just going to find more and more of that in the next few projects that you do.
Well, there's a lot of artists suddenly coming out as well, because I guess street art, it's actually becoming quite a well-paid profession where maybe, you know, the arts, well, especially painting.
Just ask Banksy.
Past. Yeah. I don't know if he gets paid for anything.
Oh, maybe you don't.
Kind of a bit undercover. Maybe he has an agent.
No, perhaps.
But I think because there's this thing of people are now actually paying for murals, percentage of the art is now actually, usually it used to only be sculpture, and they've changed a lot of it now that it's also wall murals.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course.
You're seeing a lot of large scale kind of artwork going up in new developments.
Yeah, rather than a sculpture somewhere of like some generic, whatever it might be. Yeah, they'll do some sort of feature, like wall feature. Yeah, pushing that way.
So it's suddenly there's all these artists of all these creative abilities. You see graphic designers and illustrators. Fieldy's a graphic designer.
Yes.
Rob's a painter and decorator.
Yep.
So usually you've always got a job. I'm a cartographer.
Right.
So that's my background. So you always come from something, and then there's this kind of pushing towards bigger scale kind of projects. So there's going to be kind of an amazing kind of explosion of different creative types, I think. I don't know, it's a really fascinating industry. And the people are all kind of very diverse, and
which is fantastic. Yeah. And so it's much like your story, I guess. You said, you know, you never really thought about doing street art before, but it's just something that's come along, and now, you know, it's something that you found, like, it's, I'm assuming it's a passion for you. Of course it must be, given you put so much work into it. So
it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's really hard work.
Not worthwhile though?
Yeah, when you finish it.
Right.
But through the week that you're painting it, it's back-breaking.
Sure.
Especially in summer when it's like 40 degrees heat and you're pretty much just baking.
Sure.
Your paint's drying up in the pot, like sunburn, smell of sunscreen.
Yeah.
You get a compliment, you're like, oh, thank you. So it's kind of, in a sense, because I'm not a painter, because I'm a sculptor, and that's why my artwork's quite drawing focused, because I like drawing. So that's why you'll see there's always dark lines.
Right,
so
sure.
I'll draw it,
yeah,
and then colour it, and then I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do, and fill in the colours.
But what I love about your work is just this amazing depth in colours that looks, like I'd say it's like even quite psychedelic looking. I really feel like it's like taps into some sort of for me, like some sort of dream state, or like it's it's very like ethereal, and just that depth I find quite interesting. And what's brilliant about doing a project like ones you've been organised is like you can have a style like yours, but then something completely different right next to it, and it doesn't have to follow like a theme, which is brilliant.
And I think with the Mount Lawley one, when you guys get to go and see it, it's quite a great wall that it's actually carved up into 10 different panels with an actual pillar in between. So it lends itself to that a lot easier. Yeah, sure. So it's like 10 different canvases that are outside. Yeah. Sometimes if it's a long flat wall, that's when you need to start discussing with other artists how you're going to meld those designs and make it a little bit more. So I did a Fresh Provisions wall in Mount Lawley, right next to the one, the one that we met at. All right. And it was mine, Fieldy, and Brenton C.
Okay. So whereabouts is that? Which one's that?
You know, Fresh Provisions. Yeah. And there's a car park behind it. Yes. And there's a huge 35-metre wall behind it. You've never seen it?
Well, not the one you were working on like 3 weeks ago.
We did that one for the Form Public project last year. Okay. Yeah, it's huge.
I'm sure I have seen it. I just can't think of what it is now.
You would have walked by it when you came and said hello. Okay. But next time you're down there, so if you look at all melds, it works really well, even though we're very different artists, and that was because of the colours we were using. Right, sure. Because I went out and bought all the colours and pretty much put it in the middle. Yeah. And from there, during the days, we just used the same colour thing. And it looks really good. Okay. You must check it out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I will. I'll go have a look tomorrow when we get some daylight.
Saying that, I'm going to actually, because I'm a map maker, I'm going to be making maps of Beaufort Street. Yeah, okay. And one of them's going to be a mural map.
Oh, right, nice.
Another one's going to be a parking map. Yep. So you know where to park and how expensive it's going to be.
Oh, fantastic. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Because I always find whenever I get a Fremantle, I never know where to park. Sure. And I always end up in some really expensive kind of high-rise car park. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, how great just to have one map that said, okay, if you're only here for an hour. Sure. This is great. Yeah. This one's free.
And have it like in a creative way that some people can really like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Yeah. Do you know what, I'm pretty sure you must know what a palimpsest is. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right. Palimpsest. Palimpsest. I think I can't even, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Palimpset, palimpsest. But it's a way of, it's like
a map thing?
Yeah, it's like a montage that you have of like so I did it with my landscape architecture where you get like an area and then you build a map of that area based on like, you can have all kinds of things in it. Like we had to draw like bits of vegetation that were there as part of it. So like you can do it in like on a flat surface 2D plane, but bring all like different elements of that area. So like characterizations of that area and depict it in a visual form and put it in all like basically just like this montage. Yeah.
So you're saying like all abstract. The trees on the street.
Like you might draw like a leaf from one of the trees, or you might find an interesting flower or something that goes there, or like a street name or a street sign, and you draw that into the map as well. So very much what you're discussing, but done in like sort of like a montage.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I'll
Are you going to put a link?
I will. Yeah, I'll send you
a video.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah. Screen's not on, but yeah.
There was a project in Britain that they were doing where it was not the mapping of street names, but the mapping of areas as they were nicknamed.
Oh, okay, great idea.
Because I guess there's this idea of, especially in, I guess, like very dense kind of residential areas or even city areas in Britain.
Yeah.
Something would be called Chippy Lane because that's where all the fish and chip shops were.
Sure.
Or, I don't know, Knifers Row or, I don't know, different things like that. So it's this
Brick
kind
Lane
of
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's this idea of maybe something that's not hard facts, but mapping something else about the area.
Yeah.
So you could do... I know there was a guy that mapped the pathways of dogs in a day.
Oh, really?
Around
Okay.
Beaufort Street.
Oh, right, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that stuff's so fascinating. I'm glad we're getting onto this subject.
Yeah.
Has he? Okay, cool.
I don't know what it is.
All right.
But
Well,
I'll
have to
find
have a look.
out and we'll put it here.
Yeah, please do so. Yeah. We'll have a Google of it and find out. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess it can really lend itself to like that sort of abstract mapping. I love maps. Like ever since I was a little kid, I'd open up the UBD street and I'd just like look at it. I don't know. I was just like mesmerized. But I think it was like the colors and the shapes and all the other bits and pieces and the patterns that were involved in a map. I just used to like just be fascinated with it. And I guess it can really, I know. So I'm still fascinated by it, but I can see how like it can really lend itself to as an art form as well, like mapping and also representation in street art too.
My style is a map pretty much.
Yeah,
I've got strong lines that are interconnected with kind of shape and color and spacing and sense like that. So in a map, it's very important of how you lay things on. How the distance between things, because everything's quite suggestible on that. So if you use red as a colour, that means danger, or it could mean something else. So you've got to be quite careful in the way that you represent things and present things. If something's very large, like lettering, it says it's more important maybe than smaller lettering.
Yeah, and if it's in capital letters compared to lowercase perhaps. And and so you did a piece, it was the train, like it was a representation of the Mount Lawley trams.
Yes.
Is that right? Whereabouts was that again? In Inglewood, that's right.
In Mondo's.
That's right,
butchers, Mondo's.
Mondo's is fantastic,
On a weekend, they do the most amazing kind of hot meat lunches.
Yeah, like roast beef, sort of rolls with gravy and all kinds of things.
You have to line up around the corner to get one.
But fantastic meats, and also that's the only place I buy chicken from as well. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, we're giving a little shout out to Mondo's here, but like they just do the most amazing roast chickens. They cost like $17, but they're big, like big chickens, and they've got the most amazing seasoning and stuff. And I'm starting to get a bit hungry just thinking about it. But yeah. So what was the I really, that's probably my favourite piece of yours actually. I really love it. Yeah.
It turned out really well.
And what was the inspiration behind that particular piece?
So Vince, who owns Mondo's, I don't know if you've ever met Vince the butcher. He's quite a character. So he's kind of this amazing, kind of wonderful guy, but he passionately loves the trams that used to run on Beaufort Street. So in Perth, trams were put in, I think, in 1889. Okay. And the last one was removed in 1956 or something. Right. And that was the Beaufort Street one all the way to Inglewood. Right, okay. And they used to come every 5 to 10 minutes, they were really cheap. There was this amazing transport system that... Sure. It was pretty much costing the government a lot of money, so that's why they pulled it all. Yeah, away. Okay. Is that why? And because the advent of automobiles, I guess, and that sort of changed things a little bit, did it? I'm not sure the details. I did actually have a long discussion. There's an actual group called like the Electric Tramway Society or something. I've seen that too, And so when you have a look at the mural, there's a few facts in there, and that's what he gave me. Sure. But I think there's like this amazing kind of culture that was around the trams as well, that's why all the streets coming out of Perth are so straight. Yeah, right. All the train tracks. Right. But someone was telling me that like you could ride for free. This might not be true. And all the trams used to finish at a pub. Oh, really? Okay. On a Sunday, so you could ride for free on Sunday. Actually, I don't know if that's true. It sounds good though. It sounds plausible though too. Yeah. Could be. That was back in the days where you'd have like the Sunday. That's where the famous Perth Sunday Shesh came from, and because it had to be like out of
Like they used to do it down in Kwinana and like out of the metropolitan area.
Oh, what? Cause
or the CBD, I should say. Yeah, so I think it was just like Perth City Central, like had a ban on alcohol on Sundays, but like the out areas.
Oh, maybe
still
you caught a tram.
Yeah, so you caught a tram out of the
you-
city or
yeah.
out of Fremantle, because that was sort of the two main hubs at that stage. And then you go to the outer districts, and then you could. That makes sense. Yeah, the tram finishes at the pub, and God, it sounds pretty horrible though too. You just here, everyone go drink some alcohol, or I go straight to
for a drink.
yeah. On a hot, it is fantastic Sunday sessions too, I should say, but yeah. Just getting like droves of people out just to purely do that. It's quite an interesting thing.
Still in our culture.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah.
So he had a picture of a tram pretty much. It's up in his butcher.
Right.
You're probably too fascinated by the chickens, but it is on the wall. But yeah, pretty much I just, when they were asking artists to do a design, they said for the Mondo's wall it has to be a tram.
Okay.
And I kind of like, I do a bit of, I like drawing things like that because they're quite detailed and they lend themselves to, they look good with, and it had to be colourful because that's what I did. And I did say to them, I'll do one, but it will be psychedelic.
Sure.
But they loved it, which was great, which is good because City of Stirling, I don't think had done many murals by then. So they go through a big process where they get it approved by council.
Yep.
So, but they're doing heaps now, but it was still kind of early steps for them
at that
to
time.
Do that so that was why it was important that it was something historical and
sure.
Yeah, and it was a huge wall. It was like 17 meters long and 3.5 or 4 meters high, and I had to get I had to have it done in a week.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
okay.
It was like this horrible time frame that...
What time of the year was it?
It was winter, so it was raining on me as well. It was like such a big wall. I was like... It was, and I had like, I had to build my own scaffolding, which I'd never done before. So it was like, scaffolding's quite easy. It's like Lego, you just whip it together.
I do like scaffolding too, yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's something fun about it. I don't know what,
a man of many kind of enjoyment.
Sure.
But it was great. We got people came down who walked by and they were like, "Can I come back and help paint?" Yeah, sure. So they all came.
Oh, right, cool.
Yeah, it always happens. And because my work lends itself to kind of a paint by numbers thing.
Yeah, sure.
Usually I get my family down or children love it because, you're painting on a wall. Yeah. Seems a little bit naughty.
Sure.
I'm actually doing 2 murals this year. One for City of Vincent arts program. Okay. And possibly another one for Inglewood if they get their funding for another paint by numbers where you invite the community down.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. You show them and you actually talk about the process of how you would do it. So, you sit down and I show them the concept and it's coloured and I'm like, okay, so this is what you do, this is brush etiquette, so you don't just throw it in there so it's all covered in paint. Yeah, right. This is the kids.
There's a
the
method
adults
to
are
it.
A little bit more au fait in what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they love it. They really enjoy the process and I think they really enjoy it. So.
Helps them feel part of the what's going on, part of the even like just truly part of the community and that interactive experience. I know Rob did something similar with the one he has on Mary Street with his man with not the furry giraffe, but the goat man. And so you got
and
like
lady.
and you got like different people. I was fortunate enough to be one of them as well. Just draw faces and just got
your faces on there.
I think it was when it was Beaufort Street festival maybe 3 years ago now when he was doing a little bit more of it because he did that piece over a period of about 2 or 3 years, and he just had like different people and friends come along and they could draw like a face as well, and I was stoked. I was like, yeah man, I'll draw a face. It was only like that big, but it just felt really good to like do something that felt that was creative in an area that I truly love. So
and you become a part of that process.
Become a part of it. Yeah.
Next time you walk by that wall, you'll be like, "Hey, check out my face."
Yeah. This is it. This is me. Yeah. Exactly.
So and I think that comes back to the community having ownership over their area. So that's also an important part of urban regeneration.
Yes.
You need people to take pride and want to look after the area
you
live in. So Dean, my husband, whenever we walk down to the coffee shop, down to Boss Man, because
Yeah.
I know they want to shout out, love you guys.
I do love Boss Man too.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Every time we walk down, he'll pick up rubbish off the ground every
Yeah.
morning, put it in the bin. He
water the plants as
he
do all
waters
that.
the plants.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's got like huge things that he'll go and water all the plants down the street,
Yeah.
and then he propagates and grows plants, and then he's a bit of a guerrilla gardener.
Sure.
So if you all down, because we live on Walcott Street, so you'll see lots of plants that have been planted from Boss Man all the way up to where we live.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Because I think it looks like it's a place that's been loved and cared for,
Yeah.
then usually it won't be attacked or destroyed, because
Sure.
it shows that someone's responsible for it.
Yeah. And I think that's something you don't really find that in a lot of these inner urban areas now, because there has been such a proliferation of authentic street art. You don't see as much tagging and like but I love like that old style calligraphy type work as well, which you don't, it's sort of that, graffiti, which you don't really like that real 80s, you don't really see that much anymore. I think it's a little bit of a shame, but I guess the tagging, which was just like generic and not creative whatsoever, you don't really see that anymore.
I think because tagging and graffiti are quite different, and I'm not a graffiti artist, so I've talked about this with graffiti artists. So tagging is just kind of a scribble kind of thing. Graffiti is where it takes like 8 years to master the can to be able to cut in, and what they do is beautiful.
It's fantastic.
Like balanced, and the colours are amazing. And I think unfortunately, because there is a lot of people think graffiti is a negative thing, so it's very hard to get graffiti artists onto projects like the Laneway Collective, because people are so fearful. Sure. And it's not because it's bad or I mean, they're lovely people, they're great, but there's people's mindset.
Sure.
And it's until they've actually met or discussed or seen, then sometimes they'll never actually be able to change that point of view. But we do have graffiti artists. I think nearly all our projects have had graffiti artists. Yeah, there was a couple for the Grosvenor Lane, I remember. Yeah. They didn't tend to do lettering, which is a shame, because I actually think, like you say, there should be more lettering. There's some amazing laneways in... there are illegal graffiti laneways, but they're updated every couple of months. So in a sense, they are legal, that it's not... You don't get hauled away if you're caught. Sure. I don't know if you've ever walked down in the laneways at the bottom of the street, down by what would it be, like El Publico and Mary Streets. So if you just go right behind there, there's a huge laneway that goes the whole length of Beaufort Street, and
there's some amazing stuff through there.
And you'll find that some of the artists that come through, you'll get artists that you'll know, new people coming up, people will be going there just testing things out. Sure. I mean, ideally what you do is make that a whole, and they do this a lot in London, they have legal graffiti walls where you go down and you can paint whenever, and it's perfectly fine. Sure. But you also make it a tourist attraction, because people love to see art being created, and especially when spray can work's just amazing, just seeing how they actually like...
It's so difficult, spray can work. I had to make up some signs for something I was doing a couple of months ago, and I just wanted to write some text, so I went around Rob's place and grabbed a spray can. He's like... And I'd seen him do it millions of times. Like, oh, yeah, it's be right. He's like, so, okay, mate, just sort of... And I was like, okay. And it was just shocking. It was terrible. Like, I just like, wow, I just got this whole new appreciation for people who work with spray cans, because it's really, really difficult.
Why didn't you just use a brush?
Because I wanted to use a spray can.
Oh, okay. To get that edgy look.
Yeah, that's exactly. But it was only
a drippy mess. And
it wasn't too bad. But it was just writing. I was just like this thing I was doing. I had to write this direction this way, So it wasn't even like a drawing or anything or a painting. It was just like text, and even that was like fairly difficult. So I mean, what's his name? He did the one on the Flying Scotsman here. I can't think of
the back
with the woman's face with those amazing eyes.
Oh, Jerome.
Yeah. Does he work with spray?
Yes,
cans?
he
Yeah,
does.
like that is just phenomenal. And he did all the not caricatures, but the faces at the car park in the corner of whatever that road is.
The Barley Street car park.
That's the one. Yeah, it's
on the
incredible.
Street Festival.
Yeah,
he does. You'll notice a lot of the details really fine on that.
right.
So he uses air sprays now.
Okay.
As well as, so for the 10 wall project we did,
Yep.
so he's done a wall on that.
Yep.
He's done the bees right in the middle,
Okay.
which are amazing
Yeah,
as well.
look incredible.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
That was done with spray paint.
Yep.
He's so easy to work with because there was a pole right in the middle, and unfortunately it was a first in first grab
Sure.
for the walls.
Yeah.
So he and Paul Deege rocked up, and both of them had poles.
Okay.
And poor Jerome's was right in the middle, and I was like, oh, sorry. And he was like, nah, it's fine, I'll just spray over. And he's made this amazing thing. He just
Yeah.
took some bees and made it work. And
Nice. Just
yeah.
work with what you've got. And I guess that's the amazing thing with street art. You don't always get like the perfect. Rob's talked about a lot where if it's like corrugated, like a fence or bricks or something like that, like it can really sort of influence what you do as well, because you're not working with a flat plain canvas anymore. You're working with material which can like soak up the paint, which can really distort the image that you're trying to portray as well. So to work with what you got, it really does really test out their creative ability, I guess.
I think it can push you further though than what you
Definitely.
would have done with a canvas. So
For sure.
speaking of Rob, and he's done a wonderful piece on Walcott Street, which is on the side of Fresh Provisions, and it's actually an alcove which has got boxes and angles, and normally for an artist they'd be like, it's too difficult. But
Sure.
it's actually how he's done it. He's made it look like a 3D kind of sea piece, and there's like little guys floating over in little
He's
boats
little blue
and
men.
stuff, the little blue men. So it's turned out to be quite an amazing artwork.
Yeah, definitely. And always, like when I'm walking, I go that way every day, there's always people walking along Walcott, always sort of walking along, they stop and they have a look and it's like, wow, where'd this come from? Yeah, like to work with those shapes and depths as well, like the way he has, really, I guess, tested him as far as his abilities, but really he's been able to prove to himself that he can do it. So it's great for him and great for show the potential for that sort of work as well. Yeah. And did you do across the road? Did you do the work on the Astor Theatre on that wall there?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. Why do you say it like that?
Because it's a historical piece, it's not my artwork because. I guess it's not my style, so it's not really bright.
Right. Who got you to do that? How'd that come about?
So because I live on Walcott Street, I always walk down that street to go to the shops. And the owner of the Astor, Bruno, owns the little gelati place.
Oh, does he? Okay. Is that him that works there with his what?
Yeah, with his
wife. Does he own the Astor? Does he really?
He owns most of those buildings.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
I thought they were just like a cute old couple that are retired and they'd wanted to start up a gelato ice cream place, and so they did that.
So
wow, that's really cool.
Well, he was a photographer back in his day.
Okay.
And he actually had offices in near the Astor or whatever. So the Astor came up for sale maybe 15 years ago. Okay. And he ended up buying it, I think. Yeah. And that area where that gelati place was kind of smashed in weird little box.
Yeah, right.
So his wife used to be the receptionist or used to work in the office. And she loved that human interaction. Yeah. So they were like, let's open up an ice cream shop. Sure. So, it took forever to get through planning permissions. Okay, you're right. It looks amazing. Yeah, so it's great what they've done. Yeah, and then there was this little dodgy little area. Yeah. And he was like, I'm going to make that a seating area. Yeah. So he's put a fence and some astroturf. Benches and some chairs. And it's turned out amazing. Yeah. And so he was like, I want a little mural. Sure. And the Astor's always seen as the white whale of walls because a lot of people have wanted to paint it. Wouldn't you just love to do something with it? Has that been a topic of discussion with him? Yes, for many years. And what's the go with that? I think he's had a lot of issues working with City of Stirling. So there's a lot of bad blood there, I think. So they did. Is Leederville City of what's Leederville under? Is that Town of Vincent? Leederville is City of Vincent. City of Vincent. So they did that. I
I'm a bit iffy about the actual piece itself, but on the side of Luna Cinemas, they did it. It's pretty much the same
McVee
size. Yeah. It's really the same, quite similar size to what they have at the Astor Theatre here. So maybe have they looked into that and like the potential with and see what they did with that? And
so I think it's a different process. So City of Vincent put up a lot of money for that.
Did they? Okay.
City of Stirling don't have the funds for that.
Right. Sure.
And I think the Luna, the gentleman who owned it, so the mural was a really expensive mural,
right?
And that's why they flew the guy over from Queensland or wherever he's from.
Sure.
But yeah, there is a potential. I'm not sure if maybe there's a historical element to it that there might be problems,
perhaps.
But yeah, it's always been this. I know lots of people have always tried to negotiate, and so when it came up, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it."
Sure, yeah. I mean, great first step in there, at least. Anyway,
yeah. Well, you know, if he likes that mural, it might lead on to something else.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's an amazing spot as well.
Oh, it is fantastic. Yeah. Going back to Rob again, I remember I was just spending a bit of time with him when he was doing the one across the road. He's like, "Man, he said, I'd just love to be able to incorporate what I'm doing here and like do something where it feeds on over the road as well." I was like, that'd be fantastic. And speaking of that, they've also, and this is going to be pertain to mainly Mount Lawley residents, but it's just a great form of entrepreneurship, I find. But that little alcove in that corner of Fresh Provisions, where they've opened up that, it's going to be called the Standby Cafe, where they've basically took out, it was just a concrete pad with plumbing and electrical work, turn it into like a little coffee shop. And who's doing that piece there? It's been...
that's Daic Williams.
Okay, yeah.
Williams. And the coffee shop owners are the guys that have Engine Espresso in North Perth.
Okay, right.
So that comes about, I don't know if you know, but they've got 2 place managers at City of Vincent.
Okay.
Whose role is purely to enhance the streets.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Is that a full-time job?
Yep.
Okay.
So this was only a job that they've created in the last couple of years, I think, maybe 2 years.
Oh, that would be right up my alley.
So that's
how you do that.
Have you seen the changes in Leaderville? Are just amazing. The last couple of years, it's just...
They've really done well with it.
Yeah, and that's because now they've got full-time people.
Yeah.
And the job was only up. You could have applied for it if you wanted.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was only like 6 months ago. The second one, they were trying to find the person.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, well, I'll keep an eye out, next time.
But it's pretty much meeting with community groups because I think you need that middleman to be able to talk to the guys from City of Vincent and then talk to the people that actually live. And actually, because I think the issue with the Beaufort Street Network is you have people working full-time, trying to also run a community group. Yeah. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like any sort of volunteer group. You put your heart and soul into it, but sometimes it feels like you're just not generating enough change.
Sure.
So the idea of having a full-time person being able to do that.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think that's why I spoke to you a little bit in a message earlier that, I've just finished a degree in landscape architecture and sociology as well. And like the town planning, urban development, that's the reason why I did those 2 degrees together, is because I've just got this real interest in about bringing communities together and what it takes, what it means to be a community and what's involved with that, and then what needs to be done as far as infrastructure and aesthetics to really promote beauty and creativity and all those elements that go into living in a harmonious, shall we say, like village, and
also the opportunity to meet people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because you tend to just do the things you need to do and you might not actually make those connections. So because I do a lot in Mount Lawley, because I live there, I need to move somewhere else so I can find new walls. It's just easy. I just walk down and I'm in the office. It's great. So when Dean and I go to dinner, we usually spend 10-15 minutes talking to people that we know.
Brilliant.
So, because we've all met them through the Beaufort Street Network or through certain community projects. And that's what I actually love about Mount Lawley.
Sure.
Because there's that feeling of community I never had growing up.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Maida Vale out near Kalamunda.
Yeah.
I've lived in Melbourne and I didn't have that. I wasn't in a city, but...
Okay.
I think this is, and because we had to actually go out and create those connections. They didn't just come to us.
Sure.
And we had to kind of meet, but it's lovely. I really love it. I love knowing the people that work and own the businesses, and it's when we were at the doing the 10 wall mural thing, like I actually didn't get the wall painted because I spent the whole day chatting to people. They were like, "Oh, Mel, are you doing another project?"
Sure.
And then we'll have a good chat. And how are you going? It was great.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way of actually catching up with people.
Yeah, you don't mind being disturbed if it's for those reasons. Like if, someone's just wants to come and have a chat and talk to you about it and what they're doing. And yeah, it's a fantastic thing. And definitely what yourself and Dina are a part of what you're doing is just absolutely fantastic. I'm a member of the Beaufort Street Network, but I've never actually gone to a meeting or done, like, I don't know why. Like I had every intention to do that, but always like, very keen to see what goes on with the emails that come out and things like that. And just the amount of work that goes into it is, I can tell it's quite full on and, but quite important as well, because if it's not us residents doing it, who's going to do it? And I guess, like you said, it's started from the residents, but now the councils are starting to really adopt that as well. Like you said, they've got those positions now where that's just purely for facilitating that community revitalisation.
I think they realise how important it is.
Yeah, definitely. But I was very similar to you. I grew up down in Rockingham, so like just down in the utter burbs, like just
I feel your pain.
Houses, and no density. So I think we're in Mount Lawley, North Perth, Leederville area, Mount Hawthorn, around into Subi. There's that density which does help allow more creativity. So do you feel like, can we get to a stage one day where that moves out into suburbia a bit more, where we can get away, especially in Perth, where there's just such this, so it's like, I feel like it's this developer demand for just like tiny blocks, a house, a tiny little bit of green lawn as a park with a couple of old trees there, but nothing really that goes on. Can you see a time where that can change or can develop?
Sure, it's out in the suburbs.
Yeah,
so what we're creating here. You've already created the space.
But that's what's happened here, though. Like what you're doing now, it's a space that's already been created, and you're bringing in something new to revitalise. It would have to definitely be in a different format, I guess, for suburbia. But
yeah, I think the hardest problem is getting people out of their house.
Sure.
And I don't know. I always feel that the larger your house, the less kind of you want to go out and
I know what you mean.
So I was the same when I was living in Maida Vale. It was a huge, we used to just hang out. You had the pool out the back, you had everything you needed. So but then when Dean and I lived in Japan, and it was an incredibly small apartment, it forced us out because you didn't want to be in the apartment. And I guess even London when we were there.
Sure.
So you go out to public places, and from going out to public places, that's when you see people, and that's when people tend to do stuff more in public places because there's the population to support it. So it's kind of a difficult problem if you can't... I don't know. It's a difficult...
it's a difficult one.
I'd like to say yes.
Yeah, so would I. But I think in Perth, we're very much at the whim of like an old sort of way of doing things when it comes to like our town plan. Like your husband would be the best one to speak to about this, but it's set from back in the 1950s, I believe, or something like a lot of the planning and structures from there. So, and then when you have developers who really just after maximising money, but without any real foresight into what creates culture and what creates creativity, where we could be at a bit of a loss. So I don't know. I hope so because and there's all the environmental factors and things like that go with it as well. There's Richard Weller. Have you heard of him? He's a landscape architect. He works for. He's a professor at the University of Penn State or Pennsylvania now. He wrote quite a large book called Boomtown 2050.
Oh yeah, I've read that.
You've read that? Yeah.
Well, not read it. I've looked at
seen at it. Yeah. So he's had lots of great alternative ideas and
Fabian of planning.
Fabian, what's that?
Fabio, the guy.
Oh, Fabio, yeah. He's the rock star.
Flowing kind of hair, and
yeah, we call him the rock star. I was very, I just started at UWA the year after he left, but like I'm good friends with students at the time who went to some of his lectures, and apparently he could talk for like 3 hours, and everyone would be just like mesmerized with what he was. But he had like this book, Boomtown 2050, had lots of great, like just looking at just outside the box, I guess. And I really feel, this is juicy. I think with Perth, with what's happening with this mining boom that we've been going through over the last 15, 20 years. I read a really good article recently that if Perth can get through the next sort of 5 to 10 years economically and transition, we could really become a hub in the world that's quite different from, and because we are the most isolated capital city in the world as well, that's very, very unique in the world, and we could create a culture here that's truly unique and hasn't been done or expressed before, because we've got the weather, we've got the people, we've got the money as well, and it's just what we do with it now. We can rest on our laurels, we can just really just go with the status quo, or we can keep pushing and doing things like yourself and Dean are doing, and really try and promote and get that community and see what eventuates, because I really believe creativity is what's going to save us. I really do. That's what's going to save us as a humanity, as a species, and the more of it we can do, the better. And I feel like we're in a very fortunate position here in Perth to do that.
I always found, because I have a lot of friends that, I guess, especially in the creative industries, a lot of them leave Perth because they think the eastern side is where it's at. And
right.
If you're going to make it big, you have to go to Sydney and Melbourne.
Sure.
And when I was younger, I thought the same. I actually didn't like Australia. I left. I was like, it's not for me.
Okay.
But I came back to Perth.
Yeah.
And I think I've been to a few cities like around the world, and you come back to Perth and you realise, Perth's pretty bloody good. I think we don't give it enough credit, but I think it's because we don't actually talk up to, maybe we're just a little bit too...
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know, like, I'm thinking self-effacing, that's not the word, but talk ourselves down, I guess.
Yeah. It's where, we've got beautiful beaches,
yeah,
we've got wineries,
best in the world.
We've got forests, we've got, we have a lifestyle, which...
We've got the bell tower.
We've got the bell tower. Obviously, that's very important.
But Kings Park as well, like this amazing parkland right in the city. It's a park that's larger than Central Park in New York. Like just this amazing... It's quite an amazing sort of energy, if you will, in Perth.
And I think there's a lot that goes on. My friends are like, it's so boring in Perth. And it's like, actually, it's not.
That's changed a lot, though, hasn't it, the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's because people don't go out and try and find things.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of subcultures that are not publicised. Like, I guess there's not a website saying...
Sure.
I used to do, like, steampunk balls, which...
What are
have
they?
you ever been there?
No.
Steampunk?
I've heard of it, but I can't...
Steampunk's a mix of Victorian age and machinery.
Oh, right, okay.
I love machinery.
Yeah, right, cool.
I like kind of like Pride and Prejudice. So
okay.
So it was this thing where you would dress up in this Victorian kind of steampunky thing.
Yeah.
And you would like pretend, kind of do role-playing kind of thing.
Cool.
And there's a place called the Artefactory in Osborne Park that actually create their own machines, and an amazing group of talented people.
Yeah, right, nice.
It hasn't been on for a while now, but it was just such a kind of an amazing group.
Sure.
So it wasn't just going out drinking, it was actually going out and meeting like a huge variety of just incredibly different people.
Yeah, so like a real community that you can develop from that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I not this year because I was a bit exhausted for the last 4 years, but every year for the last 4 years I volunteered for Fringe World as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Doing
Fringe is amazing.
Yeah, and it's that thing of, so I do a lot of volunteer work because it's the Perth I want to live in.
Okay, cool.
So to try and support those industries, I'm happy to support them by, ripping tickets or...
Sure.
Because I want it to continue.
Yeah, brilliant.
But yeah, that was amazing. Like the kind of, the people that you meet that you wouldn't normally during the day.
Sure.
It's fantastic. And you're like, hey, that's a pretty cool,
cool
place.
Yeah.
I think got to give it credit where
Sure.
credit's due. So
Yeah, I really feel like if you think Perth is boring in 2016, that's your own fault. Like, there's so much to do, and love it or hate it, I really feel like social media has had a massive impact in being able to like really promote different things. And you don't have to put an ad in the newspaper anymore. Word of mouth, it's not just word of mouth or like an advert or a billboard. You can do it online now, where it can really be seen by everyone, really. So it's that social media itself can be looked at as like a form of community and help really promote these little subcultures, which is what's happening in Perth as well. So but then we also need to do what you're doing, which is actually then to go out and actually do stuff as well. And
everyone just has to do something little.
Yeah, just something little.
Changes.
It does. Yeah, definitely.
It's just taking that step.
Yeah,
it is difficult.
I
think life gets a bit in the way. So, I guess Dean and I don't really have kids, so we do have a bit more time than a lot of people that I know.
Right, sure.
And I think, we'll come home from working and then we're on our laptops until we go to bed pretty much doing work. But we like it, we enjoy it. So
it's fulfilling, and like you said, it is hard work, I can just imagine, but it's something that really benefits not only the people around you, but also yourself in some weird way, I guess.
And I get to meet amazing people like the street artists that are part of the Laneway Collective.
Definitely.
And you
Thank you, Mel. It's actually the first time we've had like a proper conversation, except for like a quick few words a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah, I know.
It's good. Yeah.
I had to give all my details of where this place was just in case I didn't come back. It only just hit me tonight. I was like, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, right.
I was like, Dean, I'm going to this guy's house.
Yeah.
Which guy? I don't know.
Some
just
dude.
Met him
he just wants to talk.
He was like, okay, just leave the address here.
Yeah. Well, we should have to give a big thanks to Rob for facilitating it, because I asked Rob first. I said, I'd really love to talk to Mel about it, and he said, just hit her up on Facebook, and he sent me your details or something through there, and I managed to get in contact with you that way, and here we are. So I do really appreciate that you made the effort to come and do this. Yeah,
I think it's fantastic you're doing something like this.
Yeah, thank you. It's I enjoy doing it, so that's the reason I do it. Like you said, sometimes life can get in the way, like if it's work, study, family, whatever, but you just find time when you can and do it. So it's good. It's good to do. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the theology place down near Hyde Park?
Yes, I've been meaning to go check it out. No.
Because I thought it was going to be this interesting thing where you go and you talk about like religion and spirituality, and kind of, it turned out to be a little bit weirder than that.
Oh, do tell.
Oh, no, it was maybe not weird, but I think the usual guy wasn't there.
Okay.
So pretty much a person stood up in front and then read off the lines of kind of a spirituality. I thought it was going to be a discussion of spirituality.
Ah, right, okay. So it's more like a doctrine rather than a philosophy, perhaps.
Yeah, I thought, just because I guess we were also trying to find places to get together and just to be able to discuss things.
Yeah.
As something just a little bit different.
Sure.
So, especially Dean, because he's very interested in things like history and planning and kind of, he loves the stock market. He's got this really eclectic group of tastes, which doesn't marry well with most people that we know.
Okay, right. Well, he's too broad in his interests, perhaps. Is that, or just some of his interests go outside what people...
Yeah, well, there's a few people that... We sorry, this is a bit of a set. You can cut all this.
Oh, that's all right. This is the nature of a podcast. We can go off on like total tangents. And I have something very similar. I mean, because I'm anyone watching this, and I guess might hopefully have a few new listeners after this, Mel, or during this as well. I'm very much into like the spiritual scene in Perth, and a lot of the podcasts, not a lot, but a fair few of the podcasts are based on that. But like, I love watching MMA, UFC, just as much as I love meditating under a tree. Like, I just love it. But sometimes that's at odds with some of the people I know. They just can't understand it. But for me,
just one or another.
Like it seems to be that one or another. But that's, to me, what life is really about, experiencing a broad range of things. And why not?
Can't you have a bit from everything that actually kind of feels right with you in a sense.
Yeah.
It's not just
whatever makes you happy.
up in one
sure
kind of pretty little thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think I really feel that's changing. I think that more and more people are starting to become more diverse in their interests and really able to look into different things. Again, just love it or hate it, but the internet has done an amazing job of being able to bring different creative mediums to people and different interests. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that expands into the future, and especially with art as well, you know, what can be created through technology. And, you know, I find that stuff really interesting. So
do you do art?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I've started getting, I'll show you, yeah, later, but
you should come down and help with a wall.
I don't do that sort of art. I do mainly digital sort of stuff. Yeah, but I do a little bit. I did a face on Rob's wall, so, you know, I can do it. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't regard myself as an artist. But I think we might wrap up there. What do you reckon, Mel? It's been a really enjoyable conversation. I've really,
I hope it's not too boring.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, it's very fascinating. I mean, the biggest reason I do these podcasts is purely for myself, actually. So that I can learn and get another person's perspective and understanding on something. So to have you in this evening and talk about it and from your perspective, I love it. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And how can people find out about you, Mel, and your work? We can do a little thing into links or etc. Also
so the Laneway Collective has a Facebook page called the Laneway Collective Perth, and also a website at lanewaycollective.org maybe.au.
I'll double check then. I'll put links up on the YouTube site and the Facebook as well.
And I have a Facebook page, Melski or Mel McVee, Melski Art, and a website as well.
Yep.
melskiart.com.
Nice. So you can have a look and peruse and see some of the amazing stuff that Mel does and creates.
Psychedelic, crazy colours and lines.
But what's great about yours, it is like, it's sort of that psychedelic look, but it's not in your face. It's not like, you know, I'm a huge, do you know Alex Gray? Have you heard of Alex Gray? He's like a visionary artist. So some of his work, I've got I'll show you one of his books. It can be quite full on, but with yours, there's like it's like pleasant. That's the way I could describe it. Is that a really bad way to describe it?
I think it was the way you said it. You kind of spat it out. I think because if I have colours that are clashing, it actually hurts me.
Does it? Okay, yeah.
Like inside, I can't look at it.
Yeah, sure.
So that's why because I usually colour it in Illustrator.
Yep.
And it might take like 3 or 4 goes to actually get all the colours balanced.
Right, okay. Oh, so do you do it like do it on software first, do you? And then...
I know, I draw. And then I scan it and vectorise it in Illustrator.
Right,
and then I can do my colours.
Right.
And then I go to the paint shop and I've got all my colours there, so I pretty much can match
brilliant.
it.
Yeah.
I've got like thousands of colours.
Sure.
But I'm not too good at matching, so sometimes the colours don't quite work out.
But that'll, I'm sure, improve as you go along and keep doing more and more, you know?
Maybe.
What colours you feel work well with others, and that's a tough thing, isn't it? Definitely the colour.
Well, especially when you have a concept that's a certain colour.
Sure.
And then you get the wall and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, right, okay.
It still looks good.
Sure.
But it doesn't quite look like the original, so that also kind of irks me.
Okay, sure.
So sometimes I just hide that away, the concept, and then no one really knows.
Yeah.
Except for myself.
Exactly, it can just be your little secret. Yeah, but what a fantastic secret it is. Yeah.
Thank you. My secret closet of concept designs.
It could be worth a fortune one day. You never know. See how you go.
That's what Dean keeps saying. Don't ride on those hopes.
Sure. Let's plan for something else just in case. Yeah.
Let's keep it a bit more lower key.
Yeah, sure. Well, Mel, thank you very much. Again, it's been a huge pleasure, and I really hope, I'd love to have you back on again. I'm sure there's a million other things we can talk about with this. There's actually topics I wanted to bring up as far as perhaps we can talk about this next time with different people, architects, etc. Look at street art as perhaps being a band-aid solution to...
yes, I've heard that guy.
Yeah, so that's something I feel like is a good topic of discussion as well, and people's perspectives on that, especially your perspective on that, but we'll leave that for another time.
No worries.
Perhaps. And good go from there. But
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone else, for watching.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.